This will give us a little bit of some review for the people that were not able to make the call tonight, and we'll send this out to the Fitness on Fire community, probably via Discord. Discord gives us the most upload space, so when we do things like this afterwards, we can post the videos in that community space there. All right, Hyrox people, thank you for joining us tonight. So I'm Coach Josh. Coach Mario's sitting right here with me. He's trying to log on, so he'll be there in just a second. But we're going to go ahead and get this thing started. If you guys don't know, we only have one real rule at Fitness on Fire. That's everybody loves everybody. We never start anything until everybody knows everybody. So we typically go around and we do an introduction of some kind. Sometimes that can be a little long on the call. So what we're going to do today is something a little different, but we're still going to ask for you to be friendly and participate. So we can see your name on the screen. If your name's not accurate, maybe you can rename your name. That's always cool, so we can all get to know each other a little bit. And in the chat box today, I'd love you just to very simply type in your category. What is it you're racing in Hyrox? This is a Hyrox call. So today we're going to be talking about the do's and don'ts of Hyrox. We're going to talk about some tips and tricks. We're going to go through each of the stations and talk about things that you might want to understand with the stations. And then we'll also talk about the weights of the implements and things like that. So the more I understand the different categories you guys are in, the easier, the more information I'll be able to give you today. So in the chat box, introduce yourself by telling us what category you are running in Hyrox. Nice. See some men's open, some women's solo, women's doubles. Just curious about it. Awesome, you're in the right place. Women's pro, let's go, baby. Nice. Mixed, first Hyrox, very exciting. I love the first time stuff, man. It's super neat. You guys are you're gonna love it. It's such a production. They do such a good job. Hyrox is definitely an experience. Definitely an experience. Is that most everybody here? Heidi's running the pregnant category. The women's mixed doubles.
I know, sorry.
small baby man. All right.
More like a child.
mommy, the mommy circuit.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I don't know if you guys see that CrossFit girl, Tia, I think Tia St. Clair. I can't think of her last name right now. She's a pregnant woman.
Yeah,
she's
Tia Toomey.
Yeah. She is killing the game right now in the open workout. She's insane. It's nuts.
Everybody's excited in CrossFit though, because she's not competing this year. She's like the 5-year reigning champion.
I'm seeing you guys are awesome in the chat box too. Love the chat box. Keep that stuff coming. So you guys are awesome. Lauren Weeks ran Hyrox Vegas pregnant. Nice. All right. I got Coach Mario on here with me. So there we go. I'm going to mute myself for a second. Coach Mario, introduce yourself, sir.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Okay, that's Mario. Okay. Stop yours. Mute yours. All right. He'll introduce himself this way. So just talk to the screen like you're in the same room. That'll work. So you can talk.
All right. Hello, Coach Mario here. Can you hear me? Thumbs up. Yeah, I hope so. Okay. All right. Good to hear you all. I also ran the last 2 Hyrox men's open. Lost some time doing it again. Just want to keep pushing time, keep improving. Been training on it hard this year. Body's still feeling it right now, so when I get up, I'll have to stretch a bit again. Glad to have you all, and really been looking forward to learning and training myself and anyone else who wants to improve themselves, get that nice fitness challenge, go for a difficult goal. This one will take some focus to really improve on. We can't just go hard every station. It's really demanding race. So I'm glad you all were looking for something to challenge you and really get them focused in on your training.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we're going to start talking. I've got a little bit of a presentation for you guys tonight. The chat box is going to be your friend tonight. If you would like to, in the chat box, ask questions, chime in. We're going to kind of bang this out as quick as we can, try to give you guys a lot of information in a short amount of time. And then we'll finish by leaving some time for some Q&A, some questions for you guys. So we'll have like an open forum as well. All right. So again, from now on, I'll be looking at the chat box. If you guys need anything, I won't be able to see you guys. So talk in the chat box if you would. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And all I need is maybe a thumbs up. I see Antoinette. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my Hyrox flyer? Good, awesome, very cool. So thank you guys again for being here tonight. Let's dive in. Let's talk about it. Today we're going to talk about Hyrox basics, do's, don'ts, common mistakes, a little bit of some how-to, and let you guys know what you're getting into a little bit. So best of luck for those of you that are doing this for the first time. I'm excited for your glorious suffering that you're gonna enter into. All right, so tonight's agenda, we did a little bit of our introductions already. The rest of it, we're gonna talk a little bit about the overview of Hyrox. We're gonna talk about do's and don'ts. We'll go through each of the exercise stations and we'll try to Mario and I can talk. So we're gonna have to do like a 2-minute time cap per station and just give you as much information as we can, take some notes, and then use the chat box to help us distill your questions. All right. We'll talk about do's and don'ts at some of the exercise stations. Sorry, that skipped ahead. Common mistakes. We're going to talk about how to avoid time penalties for you guys that are racing competitively. I mean, all of you guys are racing competitively. Even if this is the first time and you're doing it just for yourself, just to see how you do and just to finish the thing, it's a baseline of fitness. It's a way to measure your current fitness level, your progress, how far you've come in your journey. And it's a cool way to put a bookmark in that, so that the next time you revisit the similar challenge, you're able to see, have you progressed, regressed? How have you grown? What have you gotten stronger in? So use this as a strong baseline and bookmark in your journey. So the things that you don't want to do is have them adding extra time to your clock when you did all the physical work, but you weren't in the right mental space. So we'll talk about that. And like I said, we'll finish with a little open forum at the end of it all. All right, so let's get into it, man. These are some really cool tips and tricks that Mario and I started talking about a little bit. This is a general thought about the whole thing. So there was 4 major themes that him and I agreed on that we wanted to talk about today a little bit. So the first one was about being efficient during the race. And we'll both talk about this a little bit. So I'll open it up and then I'll turn it over to you if that's cool. The first thing I'll say is that understand that Hyrox is a long race. This is an endurance sport, whether or not you think about it, right? So everybody's thinking about the heavy sled pushes, the heavy carries, all this heavy stuff. But there's also, there's a lot, 8K of running in between. It's a lot of running. That being said, if you come out the gates and you blow through the wrong energy systems too quickly, you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt really early, and you don't want to be playing catch up the whole time. So Mario, talk to us about your thoughts on being efficient.
Being efficient, we always want to know what's the best way to do the sled push or do the sled pull, and there are different ways to find out. You come to our gym, I'll show you one way for, let's say, a sled pull. You want to use your legs more. Some people are not used to that heavy weight and start using upper body and arms. You're going to tax your arms. You got smaller muscles in your arms than your legs, so the more you can use your legs in that station, the better. A skier, also bending through your hips, using your body weight to pull those handles and save your arms longer. So like some people coming in the first time, they're a little stiff in their legs and use their arms a lot. Again, that's inefficient. Your arms aren't going to last as long as your core is. So the more you bend that way, the better.
If you're talking to this mic, so you have to give it big action.
All right. Okay, so just to repeat that again, like
I think I got that one. Yeah, just 2 decibels up. And then Mario's spot on, right? There's a lot, and we're working off of one computer from a distance here, so I got a text, and I did have Mario speak up. So speak up, so that'll be good. But he's spot on, right? There's a lot of ways to work the rest into the stations, especially if you have efficiency on the machines, you have efficiency in your technique, you're using bigger muscles versus smaller muscle groups. All of these things matter. Don't come out sprinting on the machines. Understand how to leverage bigger muscle groups and take your time and find a good pace. And we're going to talk about pacing next, which is a good segue.
Yeah, just to say it out loud, that there's a difference between efficient and pacing. Being efficient, like running form. If you run well, you won't tire yourself out as quickly. You get enough steps per minute. You won't damage your knees as much. The faster you go, the faster you want your feet to move to. That kind of is different from pacing. Pacing, like Josh was saying, you want to sprint on a 5K. You want to start a little slower, last a little longer, put more rest time in. So just wanted to differentiate between efficiency, like good form will get you farther. And if you've done Spartan races before, efficient, I'd say technical proficiency on obstacle will get you through it faster. Rather, pacing will keep you from tiring yourself out. So just wanted to make that distinction there.
Cool. So we talked a little bit about being efficient. We talked about pacing. Another thing here is about like running your race. We talked about staying calm here a little bit, and this expression I'll use a lot with you guys is just run your race. A lot of the times you have an idea or strategy on how you want to go out and do this thing, but then you've got somebody right next to you that's running a little bit faster or is doing the sled push a little bit faster, and you start trying to run their race or playing their game. And that's a terrible idea. I would tell you, go in with your plan of action and try to stay in your place and run your race, stay calm, and just keep pushing the way that you intended to. It doesn't matter who you are. There's always somebody to be faster at some of the stations. And also there's different waves of people coming in. So you don't always know how fast somebody's running next to you, right? Or how many of they may have just started the heat and you could be on your 7th rock zone at that time, right? So trying to keep up with somebody's, you get what I'm saying? So run your race, stay in the right mental frame there if you would. Yeah? Is that?
Yeah, on that point about staying calm, if you get worried like someone's going to leave you behind or you're not going to make that cutoff time you set for yourself and you start pushing yourself a little harder, you can kind of imagine how that's introducing stress into your race. What happens with stress? With stress, you can move when you're stressed. You know, like if you're a caveman out there and a saber-toothed tiger comes after you, you can take that stress and push for a few seconds and sprint away from that tiger. But we're not in a sprint. Again, that pushes into a whole nother zone. You want to stay in that calm, relaxed zone, like you're going for a nice marathon. This is going to be an hour, hour and a half, maybe a 2-hour event for each of us. So staying that easy pace is going to help you out. Elevating your stress is going to exacerbate some of your energy. So want to keep out of that zone and also breathe easy. We'll get into that. So.
Yeah, for sure. I tell my clients a lot of the times that you got to find your calm in the storm. And there's something about the fact that, like, yeah, you're under duress, man. You're gonna be going through it. And the more that you can control in that, that's actually some of the fun of racing. It's a chance to kind of test your adversity to stress, if you will. So let's talk about the last part, being visualization. So visualization, I love to talk to our clients about beginning with the end in mind. What are you setting out to do? Why are you doing this? What does success look like to you? I ask my clients this every time before they race. I ask my clients, what does success look like to you? You need to define that before you show up on game day. Success, for me personally, isn't always dictated or isn't always directly correlated by to the result of the event for me. Because sometimes there's going to be things that are out of my control. Somebody just might have a great day. Maybe the world record holder shows up at the race and you're racing the big dog for the day, where normally he's only at one race out of all the races, what in your region. It doesn't matter. I like to focus on what I can control and make that my success metric. So something simple that I like to offer up is that I want to give it my very best and I want to grow. It sounds silly, but those are two things that if I give it my very best at a race and I grow and I get a little bit better from doing it, and I keep doing that over the course of my long span of my career, I think I'll be a better athlete tomorrow than I am today. And that would make all these races fun and exciting to keep doing, right? I'd be progressing as I go. Your best is going to look different on some days, right? Show up and give it your all. Give it your best, not just on game day, but you got to give it your best at practice, right? There's nothing worse than showing up to a game day knowing you could have done more to prepare for this event. On the other side of that coin is when you show up on game day knowing that you did everything you absolutely could to set yourself up for success today. And when you walk into a race on that day, all the stress levels, being able to stay calm, stay mentally, it's so much better, because you're not going through this guilt trip and this shame, the shame bell in the back of your head, thinking about all the workouts you missed and all the runs that you didn't do and all that stuff. Put your effort in, give it your best every day at practice, know what success looks like to you, and set yourself up so you can have a great race. And you guys have about a month and a week or so to really get after this thing. No, about a month now. Sorry, just kidding. We were supposed to do this call last Tuesday, so my brain's mixed up. But you guys got a month to really put some good work in. So let's talk about the zones.
Okay.
Talk about the zones. Cool. All right, clicking on. So the competition, if you don't know, this is what Hyrox is. These are the 8 obstacles or the 8 rock zones that you're going to see. So you have the 1,000-meter skier. You've got, and it starts with a run. Everything starts with a 1,000-meter run. So you start the 1,000-meter run, you come into the skier. Then you do another 1,000-meter run. You got your sled push, 1,000-meter run, sled pull, 1,000-meter run, burpee, broad jump. You keep the run, 1,000-meter row, 200-meter farmer's carry, 100-meter sandbag lunge. And then it's 75 wall balls for the women's open, and it's 100 wall balls for the men. All right. Everybody love all that. So this is a cool graphic. If you haven't seen this graphic before, it is on the Hyrox website, but maybe you can even take a screenshot of this or something, because this is something I revert back to a lot when I'm setting up my workouts, my zones, my run-throughs, all that kind of stuff. I will mention that I have strengths, as all of you do as well, in different places of this race. Some of you are going to be stronger in the skier. Some of you will be stronger on the rower. I love this part of Hyrox, but if you actually go to the Hyrox website, you can look at your results, and they show you, I should have pulled up a graphic of that, but they show you your results in each of these rock zones, and they show you how you compared in your age group in each of the individual zones. This is cool because this gives you the ability to see very simply where you're strong and weak. An example is I had a client I was training. She came in. She's like, "Look, I really need to get better at the rower, and it was like the rower and the burpee broad jumps were her concerns." But then when we looked at her zones, she was like 16th in her group on the rower, but she's like 97th in her group in the wall balls. It's like, ooh, big discrepancy, right? Where do we really need to spend our time training? Right. And obviously the wall balls are in the race, and we can talk about a bunch of other factors that go into all that. But very, very simply, you can go through and itemize your training plan based off of your strengths and weaknesses. I really like that about this race. So talking about the different zones, let's talk about the skier. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set a 2-minute timer, Mario, because you and I are going to go long on this. So we got 2 minutes per station. We're going to give you our thoughts. We're not going to give you a lot of visuals or run-throughs on the obstacles today because it's just it's a lot of time to do all that. So we'll talk about like specifically on the zones where there's penalties or things we see that go wrong. We also have a lot of experienced racers on the call today. So for you guys that have a lot of experience, take mine and Mario's experience as just 2 people's experience. Your experience is probably different than ours. If you have a note or an ad or a value add that you want to put into the chat box or something like that, please feel free. It's a welcome call. So talking about the skier, I'm going to set a timer. Literally, we got a 2-minute timer. You see it, I see it. All right. So I'll let you start. Is there any thoughts that you have on the skier to start off with?
All right, this is one of those that actually I needed to come to the gym. This is like I signed up for the first Hyrox before I was actually a member here at Phoenix on Fire. So I got an open gym because like this, I didn't have access to a skier. I needed to practice it. I practiced some ball slams before, but it's not quite the same as those 2 handles. I was talking about efficiency earlier. This is one way to be efficient, just bending the hips, dropping the body down. I like to describe it as getting home after a day of work and see your bed and like, all right, let's go. And you just drop chest first into that bed. Kind of like that. Now you got your handles on there, you're dropping, you're bending, and you're using your body weight to pull those handles. A good time to exhale, that is to tighten the core, is when you first initiate that pull, drop down, and then finish with the arms. Some people like to start with the arms and say tighten the core, start with the hips, and finish with the arms. And save your arms for later, and that's more efficient. And just watch your pacing on the machine. Find a good pace with maybe it's 2 minutes per 500 meters, or maybe it's 2:5, 2:10. But if you can maintain what feels good, you'll last longer and get that 1,000 meters done quicker rather than trying to hurry.
For sure. I don't have a whole lot of ads here on the skier. My biggest thought is this is the first obstacle that you're going to run into. So when I'm doing my run throughs, all this stuff, I'm saving it a little bit here. I can make up a lot of this in my run later. You're talking like if you're skiing at a 2-minute 500-meter pace versus a 2-minute and 5-second 500-meter pace, I maybe lost 10 seconds on the ski erg total, and then I've got, you know, a half mile plus of running afterwards. I catch my breath a little bit and just lean into my run a little bit more. I'll make up 10 seconds. So just mitigate your efforts here. This is like your warm up. You're ramping up into the event. All right. I will tell you that I think that excessive transfers on the rower and skier for the partners groups, I think it could be a little, the skier is a little quicker. You could just pop off and the next person could pop on. The rower, when we get to that, I would maybe recommend getting, I just limit your switches. I saw one group, they were doing like every 200 meters, they were switching, and it was just silly. It was silly. They added like a minute of switches into their rower time. So just little thoughts there. That was about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. This is how it's going to go today. Let's keep going. All right. So sled push, man. That dude looks buff right there. That dude pushed that sled. So 2 minutes on sled. I'll start this one, pass it off to you. A lot of different variations of the sled push. What you'll see is most people are going to get up really freaking like close and personal with that sled. Sometimes we're going to put what you can see Mario doing here is he's got his hands on the sled and his elbows are braced into his rib cage. Essentially, he's pushing that whole thing with his body. You got to use your whole body weight into this thing. You want to be able to find the right height at which you're pushing the sled, right? If you're pushing it up really heavy or up really high, you're probably going to nosedive it into the ground. That may not be the most efficient thing. You'll see some crazy strong brutes picking the damn thing up and running with it damn near, right? And that's fine if that's your slag, right? I have found a cheat code that is probably not good for my brain or skull, but is something that makes the sled push look seemingly doable for me. Is I'll put my shoulders on the sled. I literally put my head on the middle beam. So I head on the middle beam, shoulders on the racks, and then I grip my hands underneath and lean my whole body into that sled. I'll tell you that I'm an old football player and I understand how to pack my neck and things like that. So understand if you're pushing with I'm not really pushing with my head, but there's no space for me anywhere else. And I actually feel like I get some leverage in there. So I'm not telling you to use your neck, but I'm just telling you, like, if you watch me, you'll see I'm pretty freaking strong in the sled push. That's a part of it. I've seen other people there's a lot of different techniques for it. You got to get low, you got to get close. And then we talked about pacing on this thing, right? That I've been told, this is some approaches, that you may want to kind of stop before your legs fail, right? Stop and rest before your legs fail. Take a second, get that lactic acid out, shake them off, whatever, and then hit it again. If you go to the point like where you get past that point, like no return, it's like you're in this deficit trying to chase this thing at some point. Any thoughts there, bro?
Yeah. This one, I was talking about efficiency, like on the skier, you can kind of work hard as you pull down and make it a little easier as you come up. This one, there's not really any way to make it easier. It's hard, it's heavy. The only way to make it easier is to work in a rest, like Josh is saying, to push it maybe 10 meters, not the full 12, unless you like, that doesn't tax you. But like if you're pushing it halfway across and you're like, you can feel that lactic acid building up, your muscles are getting tired, it's better to rest often. It'll save you during the race, because these heavy sled pushes are in the beginning. And after that, you get the burpee broad jumps, you got more lunges, you got a lot more work after these. So if you're in the race, if you're racing hard at the sled, it's going to cost you later on. So instead, this one, save your legs, train hard in the gym, build out that resistance. If you push yourself over the edge, it's going to be to the point where you probably can't get that strength back and you're going to be almost cramping around the race. So don't cramp, take it easy.
That's all good advice. I'm going back to a question I saw in the chat box about the skier. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong on this one. Sometimes I'd be in the zone and I don't even see things when I'm racing. Sometimes just foaming at the mouth doing stuff. But I do not think they set it to count down. I believe it just counts up. I think when you start pulling on it, it just counts up, because I believe I see it tick up to 1,000 is how I recall it in my brain right now. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me in the chat box. Like I said, I might be zoning out, but I typically remember it going to 1,000, and I think you're supposed to stay on the platform until you see 1,000 on the screen. All right, let's keep going. We got the sled pull, man. Sled pull's heavy. What you'll see here in this picture is you'll see that there's a line by my feet on the ground, and then you'll see that there's a line marked behind me there. So there's maybe a 4-foot run space would be my guess. It's probably 4 foot or less. That being said, oops, I keep scrolling a little bit. You guys got my fun slide, but for the sled pull, you want to be able to use that little run space a little bit. To Mario's point earlier, your legs are bigger than your arms. Use bigger muscle groups. It's almost like a row of some kind, like a rower. I will kind of get real low at first, push through my legs. As I stand up, I start falling back and letting my body weight pull back the weight of the sled with me. And I also add a pull simultaneously to that. So it's literally like a rowing motion where I push, pull, kind of fall back and keep my feet moving. Now, you do want to be careful that you do not run out of that zone. You are supposed to stay in that zone. And I've seen it been penalized for somebody running clear outside of the zone. I have tripped before and fell out of the zone, and I did not get penalized. In the rule book, it says if it's unintentional, that it's up to discretion or something around those lines. I thought for sure they were going to penalize me on it. So my thought for you guys is be mindful of how much you're using your legs in that run space. This is another one of those gritty ones. I really like this part of the race, right? Where just some of these things just suck. And that's good. That's what we signed up for. You have any thoughts on this, Mario?
Yeah, getting that form down is like something to practice. I've been guilty of using too much hips. The first time I went in there I was planting my feet. I know at Spartan race, you have something like a sled drag and you bend, you don't move your feet basically. No walking there. But this one, you can take advantage of the walking. So I was saying I was basically hinging on it, doing a whole lot of rope deadlifts. And that just slowed things down. I learned this walk back form and it cut off like 2 minutes by my next race. It was a game changer. Practicing that, very helpful. Obviously, rope, grip, something to watch out for. That rope is going to change things. So the first time you pull it, it will stretch. So pull it tight and then use your leg. Otherwise, you're going to like fall down on that first one. So you pull that long rope, get it tight, pull. Take a few steps back, like measure your steps, like maybe 6 steps, and that's it. And walk back forward and pull again.
And you're responsible for your rope. So if you trip on your own rope, that's your fault. So you've got to figure out how to clear your runway to do all of that stuff there. I'm also seeing the chat box here. In doubles, can your teammate touch? And thank you, Lauren. No, so in doubles, nobody's supposed to be touching the rope except for the person on the rope. So your teammate, people might have gotten away with that in the earlier parts of Hyrox, but they've gotten a lot better at this, that you're not supposed to be, because who knows if you're assisting and whatnot, right? So just leave it alone. The person with the rope is responsible for their rope and their work there. A couple other questions here. On the skiers and rowers, you're only allowed to touch the damper setting 1 time. That's a good note. Thank you, Lauren. How strict are the judges with burpees and wall ball squats? I've heard refs are strict with form and call no rep. Yes, DJ, absolutely. Very strict. It's probably one of the stricter competitions I've ever seen. They want you to hit a certain depth in the wall balls. You have to hit the target in the wall balls. And then the burpees, they have a very specific clarification for the burpees, and we'll talk about that right now. So I'm gonna keep moving. On the sled pull, you can see some of the weights here. Question weights 175, 225, and 330 plus. 175 is for the women's open. 225 would be women's pro. Women's doubles, I believe. I may have to look that up. Women's doubles. You know what? Would you do me a favor, Mario? Could you look up the Hyrox website real quick? And we'll pull up the weights right now as well. We'll pull this up so we have it there with us simultaneously. So this is the, yeah, there we go. So I don't see the, there we go. Okay, yeah, there it is. Got it. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so yeah, so women's, it's gonna be the 175 for the sled pull. For the men, it's gonna be the 225. For the women's pro, it's gonna be the 225, and for the men's pro, it's gonna be the 330. I still don't see the doubles. So I'll get back to you on the doubles. I don't actually know off the top of my head for the women's doubles. So yeah, let's keep moving. Let's talk burpee broad jump. Burpee broad jump. This is the one that wrecks me every time. This is where the race starts to slow down for Josh. What's the women's doubles? Got you. So So women's double is still 175, and then mixed is 225, and men's is 225 for the pulls. So very cool. Awesome. All right. Donut burpee broad jump. Burpee broad jump. There's a couple things here that you want to be aware of. The first thing is that when you talk about like what strict look like, you want to put your hands as close to your feet as possible when you're doing the burpee. What I mean by that is when you put your hands down and you hop back, you can't fall forward and put your hands forward far out in front of your body. I think what the rules say is it's supposed to be a forearm length from your feet. So you're going to put your hands down right next to your feet as you hop back for the burpee. The burpee broad jump, when we talk about like efficiency on this is where you'll see a lot of different techniques. You'll see people that are stepping back into their burpee, stepping forward, and then hopping forward. That's kind of my approach, is I kind of hop back, step forward, step, and then jump. When I'm stepping forward with my feet don't go past where they left from in the beginning. It's really hard to talk about this without a visual for you guys. So I'm gonna give you a burpee in my office because everybody needs a burpee in their life. Sorry, Mario. All right. So a couple of thoughts. If you can kind of see my screen, I know you're somewhat following let's see, I will try to give you guys as much as we can on this. So I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. There we go. I got it. All right, Mario's giving you another view too. All right, so first thing, you kind of see my feet here. When I do the burpee, my hands need to go by my feet. What I mean by that is they cannot go forward as I'm creating distance by just falling, right? So my hands are gonna go by my feet. I'm gonna hop back from that point and I'll have our chest to the ground for the burpee. From here, my personal preferred technique is actually kind of coming up. I step, and then I set up for my jump from there. My feet start where they start and finish where they started. So if you see where I put them to begin with, when I come up, I'm still leaving from the same spot. I'm not getting any momentum by taking steps forward in my burpee broad jump. This is one that I've seen them, I've had them no rep people right next to me over and over again for bad technique on this. So if you're going to be doing that, nobody wants to do extra burpees. Nobody wants to do extra burpees. Do your burpees right. Practice with good technique on this one. The efficiency of this, I do think, is like the stepping and the jumping. Sub-maximal jumping is my opinion. Sub-maximal means that I have a lot left in my tank when I'm jumping. I'm not blowing through my power systems by jumping as far as I possibly can every time, right? There's just a diminishing return there, and eventually you're just not going to have any juice. You'll literally won't be able to jump, right? You're going to use it all. So those are a couple of thoughts for you guys there. Any thoughts here, Mario? I'm going to go back to my screen share. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to double up on that last point about how basically I think of it as how explosive you're going to be. Don't be so explosive. If you can take it easier, like breathing easier. I was a little while ago, I was doing like that 5 minutes Spartan burpee test, and I was like, okay, I was aiming for about, let's say 3 second burpees, or maybe 4 seconds, maybe 5. Even in this event, doing those slower, easier burpees will get you farther longer without being taxed as much. If you jump hard, you're going to land hard. You have to cut your breathing short, or breathe in. Basically not going to get enough air for the work you're trying to do. So the easier your burpees are, the more you can do with your breath without like making it too intense. And that's going to help you out. You won't have to take as many breaks longer.
I'm also a fan of good landing mechanics. I think that when it comes to running and doing these races that we do, like I'm in my 30s now. For some of you guys, like, oh, whoop-de-doo, I got people in their 40s and 50s on the call. Respect to you also. But I'm not a young kid anymore, man. What I'm saying is that I want to be able to do the stuff that I'm doing today for as long as I choose to do this stuff. And that being said, some of this isn't about surviving one event. It's about taking care of your body so you can continue to do this stuff. So when you're landing and slamming in your knees, you're landing in this deep squat, you're shooting forward, force out your knees. It's just not worth it. Slow down, jump a little less intensely. It's going to save your knees in the long run. All right, let's keep talking. Rower's got a similar concept. Is we gotta jam through these. So we got maybe about 10 minutes left on this webinar. We're going to go into some Q&A. So I'm going to go through a little bit more machine gun fire on a couple of these if we can. So for the rower real quick, same thing on the damper setting. You're supposed to touch the damper one time. Same concept, it counts up. When it counts up to 1,000, they'll see it. Typically you'll have a judge standing right by you as this person is here. They'll see it. Once you've got 1,000, you can go. I've never been delayed by a judge. That was a fear that I had when I heard this rule, that the judge had to see your your monitor or whatever. I've never been delayed by a judge. If it has been, it's been 1 or 2 seconds. Like you're fine. But they'll typically see it. You're good to go. You'll see that all the zones are marked really well here. So even in this picture, you've got this this arrow. One of the things I will highly recommend is that that's gonna be one of the common mistakes, is just making a wrong turn, leaving out an entrance or exiting out an entrance, entering out an exit, those kind of things. Like these are things that cost time. So you have to be present and mindful. For a lot of you, I'd recommend that you get there early enough that you can take a look at the course before it happens. Okay. One of the questions on the damper setting. So for damper setting, it's a long conversation depending on body weight of the athlete, your horsepower. There's some cool tests we could do here at the gym where I can actually show you. I could show you like the what am I? Gosh, Josh, it's been a long day, team. I'm sorry. Is it the work? It's the flow chart. There's a setting in the rower that I could show you that shows you like how much effort you're giving the rower at each of the damper settings. And for me, this one is probably, I'm looking for like a rate of perceived exertion around like a 7 out of 10. I want to be able to get up and run after this. And the rower, same thing. This is one of those ones that zaps my freaking legs. So typically on the damper setting, a really quick thought on damper settings is think about it like you're rowing in shallow water and thicker water or something like that. The higher the damper, the thicker the water. So the same pool will send you a little further, but it takes a whole lot of muscle to row in that thick water. If you pull the damper setting down, imagine it's like if you're rowing in thinner water, but you're probably not traveling as far for every stroke. So for me, like, and I know that's not exactly perfect for everybody on the damper setting. The damper setting could be a conversation for an entire webinar. But typically for most of our athletes, we're somewhere around a 7 or an 8. For our bigger athletes, maybe an 8-ish. For our smaller athletes, maybe a 6, 7. Would you agree with that overall?
Yeah, other recommendations I've seen like right around 6. For me, I think an 8 is good. It takes someone big to pull 10, so hold off.
Especially for 1,000 meters. For a 500-meter sprint, the way I would adjust the damper would be different than if I was going for endurance. And a 1,000-meter it's an endurance exercise. Hopefully that answers a couple questions on the damper. Rower sequencing and efficiency on the rower does take some practice. If you're not really familiar with the rower, I'd highly recommend getting some time on the rower. There is absolutely a way to do this and preserve your legs, back, and arms. And then there's definitely all kinds of ways to do it differently. So I think being able to figure out what efficiency looks like on the rower will be a game changer for a lot of you guys. You're going to spend about a good 4 to 6 minutes here. So choose wisely.
So yeah, it'll cut a bit. Kind of like I was saying on the skier, this is one where you can push hard and recover easy. Think about pushing and pulling on that handle hard, coming in easier, and finding a flow in between. This is a way to work and rest in every rep, in every row, not tax yourself. And like Josh was saying, it's only 4 to 6 minutes, so pushing really hard can tax you more than it's worth.
Farmer's carry. This one's pretty simple. Pick it up, carry it, set it down. What I'll say is strategically, this station is a little bit more of a rest station for me personally. We do a lot of carries here at the gym, so this is something, if you don't do a lot of carries, actually this could be pretty hard for a lot of people. I would say that my running efforts pick up right before the farmer's carry and right after the farmer's carry. This is probably the fastest run of the day that I get is sandwiching the farmer's carry. So the rower, that's where I've got to be able to finish the rower with a little bit of juice. It probably takes me about a minute to get my legs back off the rower. And then I'm trying to pick it up, knowing that as I head into rock zone 6, that I'm going to be able to pick those things up and keep moving and keep my heart rate pretty still. So then when I leave those, I can even accelerate my running further after that. This is like my last ditch effort of like trying to dial it up a little bit, because the lunges are coming next, the lunges at me. So knowing, once you understand the zones a little bit and what they do to your body, you can start to pick your strategy. This is my strategy. Heading into the carries, I pick up my race a little bit. I hit the carries pretty hard and I accelerate out of that zone. And then typically by the time I come to 7's going to slow me down naturally. So I'm strong for the lunges, but they still zap my running after the lunges. So these are just thoughts that I'm sharing.
Yeah, farmer carries, they do give you chalk, which is nice.
Generous.
Generous of them. So that'll help your grip. I feel like whenever I train someone on a farmer carry, especially for an event like a Deca race or a Hyrox, maybe a Hyrox, is that running is a choice. As long as your grip feels solid and your posture is good. I see some people carrying and they let their shoulders dip and their hands are sagging, and it's like, that looks so weak. It makes the weight heavier. So keep that good posture. Don't let your back bend. If your back is bending, then your part of your muscles are carrying a lot more weight. So keep everything in good posture, tighter grip, bend the knees. You can lean into that. Speed walk it, I would say, is a good idea for the Hyrox. So practice that carry. It's only 53 for men's open, 35s for the ladies, heavier 71s for the men's pro. So if that posture is good, your grip is good, you can speed walk it and get it done quickly.
Love it. And I see that there's a question in the chat box about the weights. I think Mario just answered that. They're 35s for the women. They are 53 for the men, and then they are 71s for the men's pro. And I think the women's pro carries the 53s as well. We have a women's pro on the call. I got to double check that. Yes, ma'am. Oh yeah. You already know though, Lauren. It's all good, baby. It's all good. Heavy farmers. Yeah, they give you 32 kilos and you good for it. So it's all good. All right, let's keep going. Sandbag lunges. I couldn't find a picture of us doing lunges. We have like pictures of everybody doing all the stuff with lunges. They never happened. But the lunges, the one thing that's been like this back and forth conversation about the lunges is if whether or not you should be able to put the weights down. You are not allowed to put the sandbag down. So once you pick the sandbag up, it stays up. You do get a penalty the first time you set it down, and the second time you DQ'd for it. There's been a whole bunch of discussion over this recently, but very simply, the zones aren't that big. So if you're throwing your sandbag off your shoulders, you're putting everybody around you at risk. So it just makes sense that they don't want the sandbags leaving your shoulders a whole lot. Also, there's an argument that you'd have to deadlift it and all that stuff, but very simply, that's the rule. Don't put it on. Once it comes up, it stays up. The lunges, you're supposed to be in contact with the ground. It should be a full 90-90. Your knee should touch the ground. I'll give you guys a sequencing that I teach for the lunges. And it's hard to demonstrate some of these things in words, but just very simply, when I think about doing a lunge, I take a big step forward. I allow my back knee to bend and drop to the ground. Not aggressively. I have enough control that I don't bang my knee on the ground, but I don't think about bending my front leg. I think about allowing my back knee to unlock. And then I stand through my front foot. I can't tell you how much that's changed lunges for a lot of the people I've worked with over many years of working on lunges. Very simple thoughts there. This is another one that's kind of slow and steady wins the race. You can't be skip stepping and all that. Every step's supposed to be a lunge. So I personally bring I'll try to step big steps in every lunge. I'll try to grit it out if I can. If I cannot, then what I'll do is I'll bring my feet together in between and at least catch my body weight on both legs for a second before I take the next step. So I'm giving myself a little rest between steps. Good question. I see on here, I read knee pads. Gosh, it has been that kind of day, team. I read that knee pads are allowed. Is that worth using or does it hinder movement? You would probably know better than I would if you're used to using knee pads already. If you're concerned in any way about the knees touching the ground or that kind of contact, then maybe it's worthwhile for you. It might be a good investment. Yeah, I think that one's definitely it. It depends on kind of your swag. I don't think I would like them. I don't think they I don't like the compression of knee pads around my knees for the most part, but that's just me personally. I think that could be a very good thing, especially if your knees are sensitive. I have a client that had recent knee surgeries, and like touching the ground is the worst thing in the world right now. Like her nerve endings are really weird in her knees. So something like that might prevent that experience. And then that's a very good call here, is that we never do anything new on race day. So if you're going to play with knee pads or any kind of new technology, I would do that prior to game day, very well in advance of game day, so I can kind of break those things in and get used to it and all that. Very good call, Antoinette.
I guess have a plan on that because you're going to be carrying them around throughout the race. And there's a lot of knee bending throughout the race. So if you want them there, or can you slide them down by your ankles? Not something I've thought of, but like what Josh was saying, everybody is running their individual race, has their own needs. So if you want it for your knees, go for it. Just kind of plan it out for the rest of the race. Lunges, I would also say it's better to rest often because this is one of those you don't really get a break. It does the best break you can do while moving is to bring your feet together and then go. Get a little pause and keep lunging. Other than that, stop, take the legs a little bit, and no walking in between. It's one of those you want to keep on walking, but the last time I did is also a little bit where that cramping was starting to catch up in my quad. So that's one again to work your rest into your work.
All right, let's talk about everybody's favorite, man, wall balls. Wall balls are great. Gotta love wall balls. Goodness, man, love some wall balls. Yes. All right. I actually saw a question already on wall balls. I think there's a couple questions about wall balls already. So wall balls, what's the best way for teams to transition with the wall balls? So very good question. What's the best way for teams to transition with the wall balls? I saw Lauren already answered the question. The wall ball has to at least touch the ground between the partner switch. So you can't like throw it. The partner gets underneath you, catches it, and keeps going. I know you guys we've all tried it, man. We all tried to hack this thing already. So the ball does have to hit the ground. That's that question specifically. The other part about the buckets you see there is the buckets are used sometimes to show people the depth at which they need to be able to move for these wall balls to count. Your thighs need to be parallel to the ground. You should be well underneath 90 degrees. If you're not sure, go deeper. Just very simple. If you're not sure, go deeper. You will not no rep me twice as an athlete. This is a good note for you guys mentally when it comes to racing. Do not get no rep twice as an athlete. Be paying attention. If the judge gives you a no rep, fix it. One of the dumbest things that people do when they race is they argue with refs and they argue with officials and they bitch and complain and they get all sad and they start crying and stuff like that because things didn't go their way. That's like the best thing that could happen to you in a race for the rest of your life is for you to get some adversity in this race environment, because we're going to get adversity every day in all the things that we do. Learn how to deal with it, take it with a grain of salt, and keep moving and get closer to your goal. Don't let it take you off the straight path. A lot of the times people are focused on what they're supposed to be doing. They get a no rep and they're like, what do you mean that's a no rep? Blah, blah, blah. Dude, you're losing time. You're off the straight path. Okay, thank you. What do I need to do? Get deeper. Thank you. Boom, I'm deeper on the next one. Hey, you didn't hit the target high enough. Cool, hit the target higher. If I get no rep on my depth, my butt's going to touch the ground on the next rep. If I get no rep on hitting the bottom part of the target, I'm going to hit the freaking top of that target on the next rep. I might do it for 3 or 4 reps and make sure the judge knows that I heard him and I'm not going to do it again. And you're going to get them, you'll get them off of your case a little bit, right? But if they have to sit there and inspect, is he really going to make this 90 degrees every time? They're going to sit there and watch you. They're going to no rep you. So I love that they no rep, by the way. I think it's one of the best things that we could do for competition is hold the standard. So don't get mad, get excited because they're holding a fair competition by doing a no rep. Okay. Other things on wall ball real quick. I recommend holding the ball by the bottom of the ball, like almost like a goblet squat, kind of with the heels of your hand versus trying to crush grip the ball from the sides of the ball. I think that's just a lot more work for your shoulders. So you're literally doing like this anterior delt chest fly type of exercise while you're also pushing and pressing. If you come from underneath the ball, it's just a simple shoulder press. Really, your fingers are balancing the ball so that you're not having to use your shoulders to hold it in place. Game changer. You want the ball to stay up by your chin like a goblet squat. If the ball comes forward, you're going to roly-poly forward with it. You want to be able to stay nice and tall in your approach, be able to hit a good squat, a good front squat, and then you use your legs for power to then finish the press or the movement with the wall ball. The heels of the hand is a really big trick for you guys there. Okay. You can ask for the bucket. If you are struggling to hit the depth, you keep getting no rep. Can I get the bucket? They'll bring the bucket over for you. They'll make sure your butt touches the bucket every time you do the wall ball. That's absolutely fine. We've had a lot of clients do that in the past. We're running out of time. So do you have any major answers?
One thing to throw on top of that is try different techniques that is focused on the arms more. Try a narrow stance for a few throws. Try a wider stance. I did 100 wall balls the other day, and I felt the wider stance was actually helping me a lot more. And this is after like the end of a hard workout. So yeah, try different ones. Like the wide stance might work better for you than a narrower stance. More hips rather than arms usually works. Using them a lot. So if you got saved your arms a little while, you can get a little push from the arms and shoulders. So try it out, a little different things.
Very good. All right. So we're jamming through a couple of these things here. I don't see a lot of questions coming through on the wall ball, so I think we're covering that okay there. Common mistakes real quick. Let's go through a few of these things. So some of the mistakes that we see, the first one is you got to pay attention to the course markings. That's really important. Yes, I am there on this picture with a penalty from the course marking that I missed. I ran through a exit instead of going around. I ran through an entrance instead of out through an exit. So when I left the sled pool at the last race, it's hard to explain, but the entrances are yellow. So when you walk in, there's a very clear entrance. So you go in the entrance, it takes you to the obstacle, then you follow the arrows and you go out and exit. Well, the stations are in different places. So I went in one end, did the station, and then when I left, the entrance was the closest exit and my brain wasn't there. So I ran out the entrance and then I ran past the exit and realized what I had done, knowing that I was going to get a time penalty. Sure enough, by the time I made it back around, there's already a 1 minute penalty on my screen there. So those are simple things there. Is pay attention to the course markings. Ways you avoid common mistakes is by getting there early enough that you can observe the event a little bit. If you're fortunate enough that you have a later heat time, get there and watch how the event runs. Watch a couple athletes go through it so you get an understanding of what the flow is, right? If you are one of the first people running for the day, get there early enough that you can walk the course almost. You can walk at least next to the course and you can see how it's all laid out. Try to picture how you're going to approach all of this for the day. See it before it happens, right? What's that?
Is there a map email?
I don't know if there's a map email. I've never seen a map. So I'm not sure.
One thing I throw on there is also they do like a video, like these are the rules and this is what's gonna be like. And one thing I didn't do this December race is watch that video. I knew the rules from April. Most of them didn't change, but one thing they threw in there that the race length changed. So it was in May last year. It was 250 meter laps. This time it's 3 laps. So I did a 4th lap on that first round, and one of them was a freebie. So I added more time. That's one helpful thing to watch out for those little videos and know as much as you can before you approach this race.
Very good. Yeah, Will posted the race format. So the race format's up there. The course map will depend a little bit more based off the venue, but it's a pretty similar layout most times. So you'll get an idea for that. Are there water stations on the course? There is water station on the course. I think they even like offer some electrolytes and stuff like that. Most of the common mistakes are going to be the things that we talked about from the obstacles, or like not completing the reps correctly. We talked about damper settings, not touching your rower and ski ergs numerous times. We talked about not putting down the sandbags. We talked about making sure that you stay within your foot zones that you get for the rope stuff. We talked about making sure that you follow the course markings, that you don't make an inappropriate turn. What other common mistakes have we seen? Oh, nice. Okay. Good. Thank you. The laps are actually tracked on a big screen. So when you're running by Antoinette, you'll see the screen that tells you which lap you just completed. So it's really cool. What's fun about doing it with partners is you guys can talk because, gosh, Noah and I, the first time we ran, sure enough, he's like, no, we're on our third lap. I'm like, no, bro, it's our second lap. So no, it's our third lap. And I was like, no, I'm damn sure it's our third lap, bro. And then the next time I was like, hey man, I think it's time to turn. He's like, no, we got one more. And so we were both wrong at one part in the race and like had to get aggro with the other partner to get them aligned. And it ended up being that we were both right together, but wrong separately. So pay attention. If you're running doubles, that is a really cool note is talk. You guys should have a good working bit of communication. When can you go more? When can you have to pull back a little bit? Hey, don't leave me here. I can give you a little bit more on this one. Hey, I'm really strong at this. Let me do a little bit more here so you can get the longer, like work out your strategy with your partner and talk. And it really helps when you're counting laps. But the screens do help you once you get the rhythm for how you're reading the screen. So every time you come up on the screen, you should see your name on the ticker and it should show you where you're at, which lap you're on.
I'll say that my first race, I was doing the same thing and stopped counting laps myself until the last one. There were so many people out there that the ticker was going so fast, I didn't see my name. So I ended up running a 5th lap. So if you can, try to count them. Don't rely completely on this and you might mess yourself up.
And I've also yeah, for sure. Technology is interesting, right? I think my very first Hyrox, I think the screen had an issue and froze up. I think the second time I did Hyrox, they had counters at the time. I don't even know if they still have those anymore. They had counters on the wall ball target, and the wall ball target stopped counting. So all this, yeah. And then the ticker does tell you, it does indicate what station you're going to. So it tells you what lap you're on, and what rock zone you're going into. It's actually really cool, but I think Lauren mentioned it too. Yeah, sometimes there's just things that go down, so you need to be aware of where you're going. All right. So guys, we have our next session here tonight, and we tried to get through a lot. I tried to go through a lot. I was hoping for a little bit more time for Q&A. We went through a lot in the chat box, so I'm going to start. I'm going to turn it off for a minute and just, is there any questions that you had that we did not get to answer today? Go ahead and unmute yourselves. If you have questions, let's go ahead and ask those questions. I'd love to hear what else you guys have today. Yeah, we killed it. We killed it, right? Excellent.
I have a question, Josh, in regards to running, pacing and trying to perform better and more efficiently with the running. How can we do that if we're not great runners?
Repeat your question one time, Redia.
So if you're not a great runner, long distance and stuff like this, and I know it's about endurance, how can you train between now and, the race in order to become a better runner and train for the race?
My simple opinion is a lot of green zone training is the simple answer to your question about building endurance. Green zone training typically take 180 beats per minute minus your age and run at that zone. That's like aerobic training. That's the most standard aerobic training. I would spend a lot of time in that zone as much as you possibly can. Spending time in that green zone is how you actually train your aerobic system. And this could go a little bit deeper, but then the next answer is just run. Run more. Essentially, we could talk a lot more about it, but I would do a lot of running in the aerobic zone. And I don't know, I would say gradually in a month's time, it's going to be hard to determine how much running to recommend for you. A typical running recommendation is an increase of about 10% per week when you're building a running plan or an endurance plan. So if I'm running 10 miles a week right now, instead of going to 20 miles next week, I'll just go to 11 or 12, right? A 10 to 20% increase on my miles for the cumulative week. And then I keep growing that 10% each week. And over the long run, I've ended up building a pretty big base. So green zone training, 10% increase in your running schedule. Pick more running options when you can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's one of those things to work on breathing. The easier you can run while breathe, or the easier you can breathe while you run, the better you can build up the aerobic system like we're talking about. The better your body gets when working with oxygen. Again, don't think about going fast. Don't think about setting your records. Think about breathing for this amount of time, for this distance, and you'll get that benefit. Just work on it. Let's say start 3 times a week. Go for 3 runs a week, 30 minutes each, and then build up from there. Might want to work your way up to maybe 10 to 15 or more miles the last couple of weeks before your race.
So here's what I'm going to do, guys. It looks like there's a couple more questions in the chat box. So I'm going to direct this to Mario a little bit. There's about maybe about 2 more questions I saw here. There was a time range. What would a good time range to shoot for be? And then you can kind of look at the chat to see if we missed anything else. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. I have a group of softball girls that are walking in. I got to go train. So Mario's still here if you guys have a couple questions. Otherwise, thank you all for tuning in. I'm sorry I have to run. I truly appreciate you guys. Thank you for your time this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mario. Just come join me when you're done.
All right.
Cool. And then you got access in there.
All
right, ladies. Sorry.
Okay. I see one question says, does the ticker indicate what station you're going to? Yes, it does. It'll say to run that you've done 1 lap, keep running. It does says you did 2 laps, keep running, 3 laps, keep running, and dependent on the length of the course, it'll tell you go to station 2, 3, 4, whichever. It does tell you that. So if your brain is shut down, you can get there fast enough. Look at that screen.
All right.
All right. Answered that one. What would a normal finish time range be for newbies that would shoot for? Depends on, again, like how much of this kind of training you're doing. You got to push some heavy weights, got to get your aerobic system working, running. I think some newbies, they told me they could be, no, they didn't. I'm going to say like 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Could be something like the newbies to the fitness. For me, my first time, not that I was like that great, but I was like 1.5 hours on the open solo. And this is kind of my experience. Open solo.
Liliana, thank you.
Doubles can cut some of that time off, like some faster people can do like 1:15 or some maybe 1.5 hours is easier. Right, going by yourself might add on 15 to 30 minutes. Yeah, let me see what else we got. Thanks for the heads up, Josh. You're welcome, Brian. Thanks for taking the time to share your thoughts and experience techniques. You're welcome. Thanks, Josh. Hey, Rob. Hyrox website of results for all base brackets is true. That allows you to see range. Yeah, if you know someone who's done one before, thanks, Antoinette. If you know one who's done one before, you can kind of help get an idea by looking up their information. Like I can look up mine. Once you look that up, you can probably look up somebody. Compare yourself to someone else's. Like if someone's on your fitness level, that Fitness on Fire, say like, hey, you've done the race before. Can I check out what your scores were? Kind of give you something to base yourself off of. That makes sense. UA is, but you're welcome. You set your own damper settings. It's going to be somewhere wherever the last person left it. So you jump on there. The judges basically there to make sure you're not cheating. So they're not going to touch it for you. I think they might. I don't know if anyone actually resets or it resets on its own, but they probably should reset it. Other than that, it's never been an issue for me. You know which damper setting you want. You go in there. I'll go in there. I'll put it on 8 and start rowing or start skiing. That's it. I don't need to adjust it more than once. I think it's almost an unnecessary rule. The more times you switch it, the less it helps. The more time it takes. Any other questions? Okay. I think we're good. All right. Okay. So sometimes it will. Thanks, Lauren. All right, keep coming in. Let's see you guys showing up. And, oh, what's this? In my age bracket, there is clear drop off between the top 10 and everyone else. Yeah, there are also results for doubles. That gets tricky because if you and your teammate are both women but mixed age bracket, then it's an average of 2 ages. This is true. If you're 30 something, running with a 40 something, you're gonna get that upper 30s probably. So they will take the average, and it's kind of like a team. That's who you're racing with. And so now you're gonna get this one, get into this race. Looking forward to seeing you out there. Anything on top of that? Yeah, it's something to look out for. I kind of like saying, all right, if you're looking at the top, or we haven't quite done one yet. I didn't know what I was gonna do the first race, so I kind of had to do it to figure it out. It kicked my butt. I think I did all right, but not like top of the pack. You know, top of the pack for my team is pretty high up there, or my age group. Again, that cardio is gonna be probably the best way to improve your time. If you can run at a faster minute per mile, it's gonna cut off a few minutes from your race time right there, rather than like trying to ski or faster and use your muscles up. You can lean into it and get more efficient at that. That's gonna help a lot of people. So getting better at running will help you out a lot. You and your teammates. Every time there's doubles, each member of that double team has to do 5 miles of running. You split up the work. Do half the sled, they do half the sled. But like each one has to do all the 5 miles of running together and run across the finish line together. There's a relays. I don't know if anyone's doing relays, but I think that one is just you do 1/4 of it. You pick your 2 different stations, and other team members pick the others. Other 2 stations each, and you do about a quarter of the running, so that's a little bit less there if anyone's doing that. Just pick which one you know you excel at and divide them up. Okay. Anything else? All right. I also have to go join in. I get to go join in, train these new young softball players. So that's wonderful. I'm gonna get out there, and no one's pushing a sled today, probably, unfortunately, but I'm looking forward to seeing you all out there. Send me a message. What we got? Thank you. You're welcome. Need to feed family. Gotta go train these clients. I'll have a wonderful evening. You're welcome. Hope to see you soon in the gym. Thanks. You're welcome, Tanya. Dina. Y'all have a wonderful night. Hope to see you soon. And goodbye.